Okay, and we're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Reality Games, and we are back. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back with Survivor Angelica coverage. Joining me, as always, is my good friend and co-host Nathan Barnett. Nathan, what's going on?
I feel both blessed and cursed. I feel blessed that I get to speak with you all, cursed that it's been so long.
Absolutely, it is a blessing. It's the season of giving. And we're back, but it's been a little bit, absolutely. But we're gonna get these out a little bit more consistently, at least past the holidays. We'll see. But enough of that. We're here to talk about episodes 3 and 4 today. Two very fun episodes. Joining us though is a great guest. He's been doing great so far this season. We got Jabbar. Jabbar, what's going on?
Nothing much. Thank you for noticing that I've been doing pretty well so far.
It
It's
would
been
be
a
out.
blast.
It would be denying your trip to the fortune teller's booth, getting spooked, getting that idol. I mean, you've been doing well so far.
Thank you. Luck. I can't help win a challenge, but luck is clearly on my side.
Jabbar, one question we normally like to ask the guests from Survivor Angelica is, how did you find out about Survivor Angelica? How did you get involved with all this?
Yeah. So I mean, I play orgs, and like I have a lot of friends that play live games. So like I would watch games that they're in and come across podcasts, and I actually noticed you all's podcast for the 2021 season, which made me then follow um, the actual season. And I actually applied and got on to the 2022 season. But as I was driving up, I got sick. Um,
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah, so I talked to Jason literally the morning of, and I just could not make it. So he texted me a few months later and was like, if you want to do the next year, you have a spot with us. So yeah.
That's just so crazy. I'm glad it worked out. That's so unfortunate to happen last minute, but it sounds like you did the right thing. You weren't in the best physical space. You didn't want maybe anyone else to get sick, but you're here now. And I have to ask Jabbar, just out of curiosity, do you think that you would have fit in more with that cast, or do you think this was the right group for you?
I think that this was the right group for me, honestly. I didn't watch too much of the 2022 season. Um, just a few episodes here and there, but something tells me that this cast was made for me.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. Nathan, we start off episode 3 with continuing, Melanie. She's going to give her tokens, good and bad, to players left in the game. Nathan, we didn't get to touch on it too much in the last podcast. What are you thinking so far about this banking system with the tokens?
So, are we sure yet how the token system works? Like, does everyone have a blessing and a curse? Because it seems to me when during those bank segments, some people were giving more blessings, some people were giving more curses. Do you understand this, Parker, better than I do?
I don't know if it's been explicitly spelled out in the episodes just yet. I've noticed that each time someone has gone to do this, they've at least given out a blessing and a curse. So I don't know if it's that strict. Like, I'm going to give out exactly one blessing and curse. Some people have more blessings or curses depending on how long they've been in the game. But that seems to be the impression I have just from watching.
I think from what we've seen thus far, I think this more than ever, and I said this last time we covered Angelica, get on the winning tribe and keep your strong people on that tribe. Because with this system, curses and blessings, if you are on the losing tribe, not only are you voting people out, but you're voting people out who are also hating you and cursing you along the way. So it's like it's like you're hitting a car and then you're taking on that person's taxes. It's just a whole bad system all around.
On a very unrelated note, Nathan, how do you feel about Drew Basile from Survivor 45? I think you guys would get along.
Is that his shtick? Is he like a metaphor guy now?
Maybe maybe he stands out more because Survivor 45 has been, at least for me, more noticeably absent of the analogies at Tribal Council, especially the newer seasons, and Drew seems from what we're seeing, the only one who's really doing it. So that's what maybe that think of. I mean, of the group, I think of Drew when I think analogies, but that doesn't mean no one else is doing it.
Yeah.
We've been shockingly chill about that over the last like season or so. It used to be like incessant.
Yeah,
Compare this to a fast food joint. Compare it to this. Compare it to that. Yeah.
Well, the absolute like bottom pit is in 43 when Jeff Probst straight up asked Cody, "So Cody, give me a surfing analogy about how we're in the game." And it's like, okay, not even try anymore. At least Jason doesn't do that. Like Jason does really well in tribal councils, but if we ever get to the point where Jason is just saying, "So Jabbar, give me an analogy," I think we might need to have an intervention.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, the good thing about Jason going to tribal councils where Loa is at is we're such a mess that we're gonna do all of the heavy lifting. And he can just like spitball based off of whatever.
Y'all give him a lot to work with, it sounds like.
This is actually an interesting thing about live games, and the host of Reelfoot Amos, or one of the hosts of Reelfoot Amos, has talked about this before, where some groups you practically have to like do scared straight with them. Like, I swear to God, if you don't give me answers right here. And then you have other people where it's just like, so guys, how's the rice today? And they're like, that son of a, and it just goes crazy.
It's
so I take it you all are more the latter in that case.
Definitely.
It's very personality based. It's obviously very group dynamic based. And it seems like for this tribe, you know, they don't have that issue. Whereas maybe a different tribe was much more holding their cards close to the chest, no pun intended. But we do see, this is just a very quick thing I want to notice is that Melanie and Troy also have purgatory buffs. Now that is super cool. That I thought that was always such a missed opportunity in CBS Survivor. They didn't have buffs for the Edge of Extinction or even for the Redemption Island back in the day. I was like, Nathan, I saw these. I was like, those buffs are pretty cool.
Yeah, they did look cool. I am of two minds on this.
Okay.
With Purgatory. As a gameplay mechanic, I'm totally cool with it. I understand why it's there. I like that we get to see more of these people. But as a player, on the one hand, it's okay, yay, I get another shot. On the other hand, these people must be so unbelievably bored this entire time. They're effectively just sitting on lawn chairs for 6 hours at any given time waiting for something to happen, right?
Yeah.
I was about to say, Jabbar, what would your thoughts be if you were sitting here for 6-7 hours just waiting to get back in the game?
Honestly, depending on what point in the game, because after the swim challenge, I wanted to be there. Whatever out of the game was, that's where I needed to be. So I think, depending on what part of the game, I think I would have had different feelings. But at certain points, I was very ready to not be in the game anymore.
Well, and something interesting happened where we learned from the last vote that we learned the two other people who voted for Veronica, one of which is Ashley and the other is you. And as far as I can tell by the episode, Jabbar, you did not tell anybody this. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So walk us through your strategy of not immediately revealing to the rest of the group that you voted for Veronica, and why Veronica in the first place?
I mean, so my strategy coming into the game was to appear like a first timer, nice, charming, but all in while lie and deny. Like if people are not coming up to you saying, I know you did this, then I don't feel obligated to be honest about it. And I felt like because it was my first time, I was hoping that people would give me more of a pass than they would be willing to give each other. And the reason why it was Veronica was because realistically, that was the other name that was out there. I actually voted for Veronica because there was, at that second tribal council, there was so much happening and there was a lot more discussion than you all even saw. And I got in my own head and thought that like, Veronica was going to end up being blindsided at the end of it, even though like the consensus was to do Mel. I got in my own head and voted for Veronica still, but Veronica stayed, and I was just as happy with that as well.
Nathan, it's so tricky to know what to do if you vote for somebody on the tribe, especially this early on, and they ended up staying. Like, what would you do in a situation like that?
Probably just. Well, there's no one seemingly going around camp going, who voted this way? Who voted this way? Who voted this way? So I think, I mean, there's no advantage to saying, yeah, I wanted you gone. I put your name down. Anyway, good luck at the challenge today.
See, and this is part of why I asked both of you this, because I agree with that, and I was hoping y'all would agree with that, because if you watch the new era Survivor, they would tell you we need to be honest about every single thing we're doing. We can't have any lying and deception in a game based on lying deception. And I'm not a player. I'm not out there. What do I know? It's just I'm shocked at the level of just raw honesty we see in modern Survivor, whereas something like this does not need to be telegraphed to the entire tribe. I think it's perfectly fine keeping a secret, unless someone is, like you said, wagging their finger saying, I think it's you, or I know it's you. I don't see the point of holding a secret. So I think you did the right thing here, Jabbar.
Thanks.
It's kind of like how advantageous it is to lie is proportional to how long the game is, or I guess inversely proportional. Because if this was Big Brother, where it's like 100 days, I mean, I could see some merit just coming clean immediately. But here, you're out there, like 2-3 days, so you should be fine.
Yeah.
And you make a good point with that, Nathan. It's like, considering how the speed of the game, like by the time they get back from this tribal council, it's probably 15-20 minutes tops until the next immunity challenge. It's like they're not even going to have time to worry about who those extra votes were. They're worried about what are we doing next time, who has an idol, what are we going to do in the challenge, that sort of thing. Whereas if it was Big Brother, it'd be much more obvious because they're spending days on end just discussing the vote. So that's a good point. Nathan, we get to one of my favorite parts of this whole episode, and we learn about the Baka Babes, which is an alliance that Sandra and Kayla form. And immediately as Kayla walks off out of scene, Sandra tells the camera that, no, that's not happening. Followed by a scene of Kayla immediately telling Jared, no, that's not a thing either. So I think fake alliances are hilarious. You have to do that sometimes in these games. Just tell somebody, hey, I'm good with you, even though you really don't mean it and the other person really doesn't. But to go as far as to give this a name and to make Kurt, the cameraman, come over and film this, it's like, Nathan, this is too funny.
I think it was Jared. I could be wrong on this, but I think Jared had my favorite line of the whole episode where he said, but I don't think I'm a babe.
Jabbar, I have to imagine the group chat thought this all was very funny. The group chat for this season.
Yeah, it was very funny, especially for those of us who were on Loa that did not see it. We were like, oh, this is priceless, especially knowing how that tribal council ends. Yeah.
Nathan, it gives some insight into kind of who Kayla and Sandra are as players. That not only, it's nothing revolutionary, like I said, to just say I'm good with someone and you don't really mean it, but to go as far out to give it a name, like, I know that doesn't sound crazy, but I mean, this is some Big Brother play right here. We don't really do this in Survivor, give alliance names.
Well, this tribe on its own is just very interesting because on the previous tribals, it's like, oh, I don't know who we should vote out. Everyone's so sweet. There's no one really sticks out. And no one really has that strong of an opinion either, seemingly. Whereas here, it's like, I gotta get them out this round. It has to be them. I'm not bending on this. It's a really interesting juxtaposition here.
They're going at such a more like, I don't want to say fast paced, but they're much more like unified, and this is who the majority group is, and these are the targets. Whereas I feel like with the Loa tribe, I feel like y'all didn't so much have a clear pecking order. Like one tribal council, Jason's getting votes, and then the next tribal, he doesn't get any at all. Jabbar, what do you think is the main difference from these two tribes, just as far as the people go? Like, what's causing the difference in strategy?
I think several things, right? The most important thing is like the people that occupy the tribes. Like we have a lot of free flowing people who like vibe vibes dictate how we feel about who we want to vote off. That's why like there's no structure. Baka has a lot of like structure, like I want this, and this to happen. And it's dictated in how they play the game. And I think that another thing that kind of took precedence was the fact that we lost the first two challenges. So we still are running on these films of not even knowing who each other are, besides what we say to each other, whereas they've had a decent bit of time to kind of socialize and realize, oh, I don't want to work with this person, or oh, I really vibe with this person. So I think all of those things kind of come into play.
Let me ask you this. You've lost two challenges in a row, and you're going into this upcoming one. On a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being like, I don't care at all whether we win or lose. I'm fine either way. And 100 being, we got to win or I'm going home. Where would you say you were at that range there?
Um, what was 100 again?
100 is we got to win or I'm gone type of thing.
I would probably say somewhere in 60 to 70 range, maybe 65. I felt like if we lose again, it's probably going to be some resemblance of my fault. And therefore, eyes are going to be looking at me. But I knew that I had an idol and I had just bluffed the last round about playing it and I didn't play it. So, you know, I probably would have considered playing it if we lose 3 times in a row. So
that must have been a wild experience for you. I feel like both the episode and we last time kind of just brushed over the fact that you probably don't even fully understand this twist yet. You walk into this booth and you have like a 50-50 shot and you just happen to get a fully powered immunity idol. Like within the span of maybe 3 minutes, how wild was that of an experience?
it was very, very wild. Um, I was extremely happy because I took a lot of internal like blame that I had given myself for the swimming challenge. So I was like, okay, great. I'll just play this round and like hopefully be better at the challenges. I wasn't the most thrilled because of like McKenna had went before me and she was very honest about what her power was. So I kind of felt an obligation to do the same, which is why I was gonna play the idol. But after I heard my name, I was like, crap, now I'm gonna look like a big liar to the entire tribe because now I want to keep the idol. I'm naturally a paranoid person, and now I have all of these different things running through my head. It was a lot.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You told people, what did you tell the tribe when you got back from that? I feel like I remember, but I want to make sure I don't get it wrong here.
So when I got back, I told the tribe that I had an idol, but it had to be played the round that I got it.
Okay. That makes sense.
I would believe that. It wasn't like you said it was something crazy or whatever. Like that's believable. They've done that on Real Survivor. Nathan, was there anything else you wanted to talk to Jabbar about before we get to the immunity challenge?
Not particularly.
Okay, well, this is a fun one. This is a very like classic challenge. This is the one where you have 2 tribe members holding back the slingshot, 1 tribe member pulling it back, shooting. Everyone else is standing in the designated areas in the field trying to catch it with the net. Anytime I think of this challenge, I think of Malcolm, when he used to play and he was so good at it. I know there's been plenty of great people in this challenge, but I don't know why. I just always think of Malcolm. And this actually goes really well for Loa. Like, this is y'all's first immunity challenge. And I got to say, not only do you guys win, you freaking dominate. I don't think the other team got a single point. Like, Jabbar, where was this coming from? Was the strategy just on point this time? What happened here?
The strategy was coming from Queen V knowing how to operate a slingshot, and Jameson having arms that are like 3 feet long apiece. Quite frankly, yeah, because like we were in a huddle and we were like, does anybody know how to work this contraption? And Veronica was like, I think I'll be okay at it. Like she was being very like humble and modest about it, and so on and so forth. So we were like, okay, well, that's better than what the rest of us are feeling. As soon as she shot the first shot, we were like, oh, okay. Yeah. So it was just the skills that certain people had in it, to be honest.
This is so bizarre that it's happened 2 years in a row now with Angelica, where you have one tribe who's just losing everything, and then out of nowhere, we go into an open field and they just totally dominate the other tribe at this one random challenge. Last season it was dodgeball. This season it's
Dodgeball.
this, and I'm loving this format. I hope it continues this upcoming year.
I think it's just such an odd juxtaposition that it happens exactly one time in a field, and it's not something you would immediately expect from a Survivor challenge, you know. And I think it's great. And hey, I mean, it worked that she knew how to do the slingshot, but you also had to have people that could actually catch the ball. So that was a good job too. Nathan, where would you be in this challenge? I don't think we've ever gotten to run it. So what would you be on the slingshot or would you be in the field?
Well, first of all, I want to say I would love to do this challenge. This actually
Yeah.
seems like fun to me. Um, I think slingshot is the way to go.
So you don't have to move around. Like I also wouldn't want to move around. So
Okay, I might be weird like Veronica. I have actually shot one of these things as well.
like a
My
small one or the big one?
fairly big. My
Oh.
friends and I used to shoot small pumpkins across fields with
Oh.
this kind of thing. It was a lot of fun.
I would
We were
probably,
dumb teenagers.
at least you weren't destroying property, I guess, unless you
Yeah.
were.
No.
They would probably, whatever tribe I'm on would make me go in the field and hold it because of my long wingspan, which is like, they're like, oh, you can raise your arm in the air and grab the whatever's being, shot at. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'd much rather do the slingshot because I do have some experience with that, but that's probably what they would make me do because they're like, oh, the tall people have to be in the field, whatever. Nathan, what did you think about where it didn't seem like they could leave those little roped off areas? I've seen the past where maybe they'll start by touching a pole or standing in a small circle, but then after it's shot, they can go wherever they want. Do you think that added anything to this challenge?
To be honest, I didn't really notice that big of a difference, partially because I feel like in other versions we've seen of this challenge, the ball, the way it's angled and the height that they're at, it's so high up that there is room to run. Whereas with here, if it's not shot towards you, there's basically no way for you to catch it.
That's true. And these weren't really balls, right, Jabbar? Were these more like bean bags or were these actually balls?
I can't even remember. I venture to say that they were balls, but
Okay.
they were very like soft balls.
Yeah. And it's not super important, but like you said, Nathan, like if it's like some type of ball, it could go up, like you said. But if it's like a small ball or like a bean bag, those are not going to go very high in the air. Those are going to go like straight forward. But Loa wins, and it's really cool. I'm glad that we get to see the Loa tribe win. We get to see the other tribe go to tribal from a viewer standpoint. That's very interesting. And yeah, Nathan, we get into a tribe that even though they look like they know what they're going to do you really ever really know until you go to that tribal council for the first time?
I think you might. I don't think they do.
That's right. We might. I don't. Who knows if they do? And there's such a psychology too of winning. I know it's only two, but like they've been there for a few hours now. There's such a psychology to we've been on a winning streak now, and now we have to actually go do this. You're either really like all over the place, or you're much more. And it looks like this tribe was very much ready to do what they need to do.
I also think it's a kind of moving with what you were saying there. I also think it's a psychological thing of you win the first few challenges and you're kind of like, oh, I'm doing awesome at this. I'm killing this game right now. It's time for me to expand. Let's make a big move type of thing. Whereas if you're just down in the dumps for round after round after round, I feel like you're probably going to play a little more conservatively.
Jabbar, I was curious just because, you're out there, you're getting to size up the other tribes. Maybe you're thinking about, oh, if I'm so fortunate to make it to a swap or a merge, who do I want to work with? Who from the Baka tribe at this point were you sizing up? And like, wanting to work with if you had a chance?
Oh my gosh. Dare I say practically the whole tribe. I so well, I was like the third person like out in the Angelica field before the game started. And like a lot of people who also showed up early ended up on Baka. So like I felt like I bonded a great deal with Baka before the game even started than Loa, which was why I kind of felt a little bit of a disconnect being on the Loa tribe. But I really honestly was excited to get to a swap and like jump ship, to be honest. Ty was somebody who I felt really close with. Um, Kai and Matt were the other two people, the two people who showed up before me, and like we talked a great deal. I really vibed with Jared. I really vibed with Jordan. Pat was such a sweet heart. So yeah, I didn't really get to talk to Carrie and Kayla as much. There's one person that I'm forgetting.
Sandra?
Sandra. Sandra and I were there early. I don't know. I just felt like Sandra and I kind of had like standoffish personalities to each other. But like we laughed a lot. I did not know how it would go if we were on the same tribe though.
Did you get to interact with Pat any?
Yes. Pat was someone who was there early. We vibed and we talked a lot.
I feel like Jabbar's in the classic case, Nathan, of somebody who bonds with basically everyone who's not on his initial tribe at the meet and greet, and then has to go on a tribe with people he has about. I feel like I always hear this story. I remember Brett was talking about that in the first season of Angelica we covered. He bonded with everybody who ended up on the other tribe. Like this just always has to happen, doesn't it?
I have experienced this before as well, where literally everyone you want to work with is on the other side. It's tough. Was there anyone from your tribe though that you're really excited to see on the same team as you?
Yes. So the person who I actually bonded with the most in the field from my tribe would have been Jameson. Like he just had so much worldly experience. And we talked a lot and I really liked his vibe. Once the game actually started, I felt like we were kind of at an impasse on how we felt about each other. But he was the person who I think that I got the most from pregame. But we also had the three people who showed up the latest. Not the latest, like they were late, but like they were the
last ones there.
Yeah, Alejandro, V, and Troy. So like, yeah.
So we get to first we have to, speaking of Ty's going to go to the fortune teller's room and he's going to get an extra vote. And Nathan, the fortune teller's room, I know it's all probability. It's been very, very fortunate so far with giving away blessings.
I felt so bad I felt guilty with this because Ty seems like a really nice guy, but as soon as he got a blessing, I was, dang it! I just want one of these people to be cursed. I don't really care which one of them it is. I just want to see what a curse looks like here.
I know. I'm curious to see what it's like. Are we going to lose a vote? Are we going to have to, I don't know, do whatever else, like something crazy, like throw a challenge, like unintentionally a saboteur? That would be interesting to see. And like you said, it's not Ty specifically. It's just he happened to be in there and we haven't seen a curse yet. So I'm wondering when the pendulum will shift to the curses start being more happening.
So rank the three, like, of these first three episodes. Rank the blessings. Jabbar clearly got the best one.
Oh yeah, a whole idol. Yeah. Okay, then we got an extra vote, and
the wise men are coming with the 3 survivor advantages in honor of Christmas. I think McKenna got a pretty decent one. The extra vote it's fine.
McKenna's was a block a vote, right?
Oh, was it? I thought it was safety without power. I must have misremembered that.
No,
I think it was a block. Okay, Jabbar's saying block a vote. Okay,
it was a block a vote.
A safety without power would be really helpful. No, I think it's a block. So, Nathan, would you rather have a block a vote or an extra vote?
Maybe I'm just dumb. I feel like it's the same thing, right?
I mean, it's essentially the same thing. I mean, one is defense and one is offense. I mean, and they're both only really helpful in very specific situations where it's like a 5-4 situation. Not that either aren't helpful, but they're not like an idol where you can basically use it at any point and it'd be fine.
Earnestly, Parker, is there a situation where it would be more useful to have one than the other? Like, I'm trying to think here.
Well, it's just like the age-old question. Would you rather, fight one giant mosquito or fight 10,000 small horses? It's like, it's like, what are you doing here? It's like there's not too much of a difference between those, with those kind of questions. It's like I think they're about the same equal level. Both useful in certain instances, but not, overbearingly helpful.
Beautifully put. Can't argue with that.
I had something there, I thought I did. But I can't remember what the other was, so I threw in the small horses. I think it's actually like I think it's more like would you rather fight a duck-sized horse or like 5 horse-sized ducks? I think that's what it is. That's what I was going for. I ended up on mosquitoes. So yeah.
They should ask that at the next presidential debate. I think it tells you a lot about a person.
I think so. I think it says a lot about the character.
So I buy a little bit of like behind the scenes info here. I just checked my notes because did I write down the advantages and all that? No, I wrote down literally every dish in the gross food challenge next episode. That is my notes for these episodes.
Don't worry, here. So did I. I'm glad you did. We're gonna get to that certainly. That'll be a good one. But Nathan, the strategy from the Baka tribe here seems pretty clear. I mean, we see Kayla's name thrown out. We see Sandra's name thrown out. It's, the Baka Babes Alliance is not going well. I mean, Nathan, these first votes, especially when you're on a winning tribe, are so hard. I think a lot of it just comes down to who formed an alliance 5 minutes into the game. Who do people knows other people? Because I feel like that's what really screwed over Kayla, was this perception she had pre-existing relationships.
Jabbar, going back actually to who arrived early, did Kayla arrive early or was she one of the later people?
I would say that Kayla, if I can remember correctly, Kayla was like in the first half of the people who arrived.
Because what I'm going with there, I do actually feel like it impacted the game in a large way of who arrived early and who arrived later. I mean, you go through some of the people who arrived later. 2 of your first 3 people out on your tribe are Troy and Veronica, both of whom you said were some of the later arrivals. So I feel like that does have an impact. What'd you say?
Veronica's still in the game.
Oh.
Wait, what?
Oh, did you mean Melanie? Yeah.
No, next episode, right?
Oh, no, not next. Next episode is Ashley.
I am so sorry. I mixed people's names up. That's my bad. That's my bad.
No, you're fine. But I mean, she was an early target, to your point. So yeah, I think that the fact that Veronica and Alejandro not only were close to the end, but like also came together, kind of had people a little bit skeptical. So yeah, I think that showing up later.
Well, and I feel like every confessional we see from Alejandro so far, and again, we're only seeing what we're seeing, is Alejandro every time is like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, why is this person getting votes? Why is this happening? So I feel like Alejandro is well liked, but I get the impression that Alejandro is on a need to know basis almost. So that I think that's also playing a factor of being one of the later people to show up. Maybe didn't have the chance to have initial conversations as much, but. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Nathan, this is a fairly straightforward vote, I think. The edit doesn't try to show us too many twists and turns. I really did appreciate, and this is a credit to the editing, and how it's improved in the past. I feel like when you edit scenes like this of talking, it can get confusing. Sometimes there's you wonder what order these conversations actually happen. But I really feel like they did a good job showing us the progression of, okay, Kayla's name is out, Sandra's name out, Carrie's name is even thrown out one point. I don't think it was really considered, but they show us it was thrown out. I thought the editing of these sequences, Nathan, was easy to follow and even kind of fun to follow along with.
Yeah, they unlike Loa, where they have an alpha male and Jason, here it's much more of an even playing field. But it did make sense the entire way through.
Yeah.
And by the end, I did feel like, how do I put this? the vote made sense. I was never really confused how this came about and all of that.
I've heard this analogy before, and I have no insight into how Angelica edits their episodes, but I've heard from someone who does edit for another live game that makes episodes for YouTube say that the way he does it is he starts editing with the tribal council and then he works his way back. That way, like say the vote is between Sandra and Kayla, that then you know, okay, everything in the episode has to build up to explaining why Sandra and Caleb are the targets and ultimately Kayla going home. It has to explain, and if you don't explain why Kayla's voted off, then the episode doesn't make sense. So I don't know if that was Angelica's approach, but I thought that was pretty smart when I heard that.
Yeah, that's really smart.
I would not have thought that. I can't edit two pieces of paper together, so you know, I was my friend. He's got it going on. But
and I can't remember the cast names, so
it is, you know, names are hard. What are you gonna do?
You know,
we're trying. I mean, this is how we were playing Survivor. I mean, you know, I would have to be reminded of who the person's name was at least 10,000 times, or else I was gonna go up and write John, and there's no John on the tribe. So I know. See, it's it's nothing against anyone. It's just I'm not great with names.
Okay,
I can only imagine Jason, who has to get everyone's name.
Let's do a round table here, real quick.
Okay,
Parker. Who on your starting tribe of your first live game what was the name of the person who you had the hardest time remembering their name?
Okay, let's see. None of them are going to be watching this, so let me see. I don't have to be super political.
Yeah, same with me. I'm good.
Kendra.
Yes.
Nathan, you?
And it's wild with this because I was aligned with this person, but Chantel. Jabbar, who was it for you?
It was a tie between Veronica and Jameson.
I love it. That was a good question. It's all good fun.
Wait, were all three of us aligned with the people whose names we couldn't remember? Was this a thing?
Loosely. Yeah, I mean, loosely. I was loosely. I think Jabbar and I were more loose than you were, but yeah. Loosely. It was more important to remember. Well, and there was like 4 people on my tribe that's names started with J's, so I don't know why. That was a little easier for me. So we get to the vote, and not too much suspense here. Kayla, unfortunately, was voted out 7-2. She did seem legitimately blindsided, though, in her final words. So it seems like they did a good enough job not informing her of what was happening, but it does suck to think you have the numbers going your way. And it did seem like, Nathan, she was playing hard. I mean, she put out the name of the person she wanted. It just didn't work out this time.
Oh my gosh, dude. Like, I was so bummed out. I mean, we had the chaos shirt on the back and all. I was so looking forward to this arc, and it was tragically cut short. That was the curse of this episode. We got an extra vote, but
you said you wanted a curse. There you go.
Evidently. So, Parker,
yeah,
what games has she played? Is she like a big LRG person?
I believe she's been in Survivor New York. To my understanding, and I don't know.
Everybody's been in Survivor New York. I feel
Survivor New York's a great game. Not me. Everyone should go follow that game. That's a great game. They have a new season. They just announced the cast, I think, the other day.
Yeah, she was great. I was so happy she was on this season. I mean, think of all the moments she gave us just in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
I think she might have played a few orgs, but I don't know about live games in Survivor New York. And Jabbar, like you said earlier, she was someone who you might have worked with, if you had the chance. But what was your impression of your short time with Kayla?
I thought that she was quiet, very reserved, very observant. Just because, like, I would notice her, like, kind of like doing a lot of staring and assessing,
right,
in the big lot. So yeah, I thought that she was very laid back and low key. Obviously, watching the episodes give a different vibe.
Well, it's one thing when you do it in the camera, or to the
Mhm.
confessional, and it seemed
Mhm.
like kind of like we've been talking about, this Baka tribe has very, I don't want to say like type A personalities necessarily, but just people who have a game plan. They want to
Right.
come in, they have the people they want. And sometimes if you're a little bit more not as vocal, a little bit more kept to yourself, that can be used against you. So I'm wondering if that played a part here, Nathan, or if it was just simply the idea of the pre-existing relationship.
Okay, what Jabbar said about Kayla observing and like staring and all of that, it made me think Kayla has my favorite intro shot of anyone on this cast. And
Yep.
I'm gonna pull the photo up here real quick.
It's a
It
really good
looks like
shot.
a poster for a Hunger Games movie. Uh, Let me see if okay, see that? Like, isn't this a great intro shot right here?
District 12. I'm wondering, is she more Katniss Everdeen or Lucy Gray then?
Uh, well, she didn't make me cringe, so Katniss, I'd say.
That's a great shot. That was about it for episode 3. So, Jabbar, anything you wanted to mention that we forgot in episode 3 before we jump to episode 4?
No.
This is much more of a your tribe and you centric episode, this one coming up. So maybe you'll have more to say. You might have a lot to say about this one. So
The grease fire has been reignited. Let's go.
the Loa winning streak was brief.
Wow. Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Listen, and you know what, Nathan and I have also been on a tribe that couldn't win a tie your shoes contest. So we've been there. Like, we've been through the struggle. So we start off with episode 4. Of course, Kayla's gonna give, another good token, bad token, which makes me think that at least everybody has one or two to start off with, or at least when they're giving it to the bank. So speaking of Jameson, I did write this down. This was a funny moment. I liked when Jameson gives a confessional. First he swears, so then he asks that he needs to restart. Then he starts talking, doesn't swear, but he has a brain fart. He immediately stumbles on what he wants to say. So then we got to start again. And on the third time's the charm. We get it. I couldn't, let me tell you, I couldn't tell you what Jameson actually said. I just thought that was hilarious. I love the little editing jokes that Survivor Angelica keeps it. I think it's so much fun. I wish Real Survivor would do more of that. It gave me shades of like when in the Survivor 44 premiere when Carolyn starts us off asking how to give a confessional. Like, and that was just such a fun moment. Like, this was a good time. I thought this was a fun character moment for Jameson.
Harkening back to a few years ago when we had Kurt delivering confessionals in the outhouse.
Are there any outhouses this year, Jabbar, or is there like a full-fledged restroom?
It's a full-fledged restroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Disappointing, I know.
I know we can't give any confessionals in the porta potty. Well, this isn't we're going to go very quickly into the gross food eating challenge. And Nathan, you have the items written down. I'm going to let you take over this one.
Yeah, some people track votes. Some people track names. Of contestants. I track what liquids were in the specialty drink. So we start off with our first item. It's a saltine cracker with peanut butter, hot pepper relish, and an anchovy.
Okay, let me say this. I told this story last season when the gross food challenges. Like, I don't remember but I've done one of these before, right? And it was eerily similar to this. It was either a sardine or an anchovy with honey mustard on it, right? That does not sound great, but I could do it. That was fine. Well, so I'm about to take a bite into it, right? I did not hear that they said that they stuffed the fish with croutons. So I'm biting into the fish, right? And I think I just ate a raw fish and I'm about to get so sick. I'm about to puke my guts out because I'm like, why is there a crunch? Turns out it was just the crouton that I misheard them say that it was a part of. So yeah, there was croutons in that. So that was the hardest part, not the fish, not the mustard. It was the crouton.
Well, that's on you, Parker. Whenever you eat fish, don't you assume they stuffed it with croutons? Isn't that such an intuitive thing?
A real rookie mistake, if you ask me.
Wow.
It's a regional thing.
So
Jabbar,
for each of these, let's go ahead and assess. Like, let's do 1 to 5. Let's keep
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
simple.
Well,
One
first, let
is
me ask, just because I can't remember off the top of my head, Jabbar, which one did you do?
Of course, I did the hard-boiled eggs.
Okay, when we get to that, we'll get to that. So, okay, 1 to 5 for the
1
saltine
is the
cracker.
most delicious cheeseburger you've ever had. 5 is feces. So we'll rate each of these. I think
All
this
right,
is a
start us
solid
off, Nathan.
2. I think this
This
is
is
a
a
2.
2?
This doesn't seem that bad to me.
No, I could eat this. This is a 2. I mean, it would suck, but I can get it down.
Yeah.
I guess
edible.
I'm ignorant. So do anchovies have a crunch to them? Do we know?
No, only with croutons.
Oh, evidently.
No, I mean, a small, like a small one. I think the crunch is mainly from like piercing into the skin, like of the fish. Like it shouldn't have a crunch if it was like cooked properly. If you have a crunch and there's no croutons, you have a real problem because then you are just eating raw fish at that point. Which I don't think the Angelica producers would do that. So, what was next, Nathan? Was it the special drink?
Next is the specialty drink with cocoa water, coconut water, Gatorade, veggie drink, Dr. Pepper, orange juice, hot sauce, and sardine juice.
Just
4.
7 things, very casual.
Yeah.
Okay, so a few years ago, my buddies and I did a bracket of sodas. And by bracket, I mean we combined 2 sodas at a time and figured out which one had the most dominant flavor. And what we learned from that is if you mix root beer with anything, you're drinking root beer. And my theory with this is you just got to pick out what the most dominant flavor is, and whatever that is, you're kind of just drinking a spicier version of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So I think you're basically just drinking spicy sardine juice with this.
Oh.
My favorite. Yeah, I mean the hot sauce and the sardine juice would override this. I mean, this also comes back to, is it easier, this theory that I've heard some people say in this challenge is that it might be easier to get a liquid down than a food, because you could just chug that if you really like put your mind to it. So this doesn't seem that bad to me, like compared to the others. I would give this a 2.
Really, Parker, you think it'd be easier to do a drink than a solid?
Well, I mean, like, look, like, let's say all this food was blended in a blender, and then you had to drink that. That wouldn't be as hard because there's chunks, but like, there's no chunks in this. It's just a various assortment of liquids. So I don't think that would be that hard.
I actually think this would be one of the harder ones. I'd give
I
this
think
one
so.
like a 3. Partially because I'm a baby when it comes to like medicine that you have to drink, like anything powdered or anything like that. I'd rather do pills. So I would not like this one. Jabbar, you agree?
I agree completely. Yeah.
That's fair. And then we get a surprise item, I believe.
Hot dogs.
5. This is a 1. I mean, I'm not even the biggest hot dog guy, but I'll take a hot dog over this other stuff.
So the system with this was whoever finishes it first, correct?
Yep.
The thing that I learned one time when we were on production for Reelfoot was we had balut and we did it, and I was an idiot and I decided to stick like 3 balut in my mouth all at the same time. And what I learned from that is no matter what it is, if you try to eat it fast enough, it's disgusting. And my worry with hot dogs is it's twofold. First of all, you're eating hot dogs, which aren't difficult. So the other person is going to be eating them fast. And if you lose in the hot dog round, your whole tribe's going to be like, man, what a loser. They couldn't even eat a hot dog for the challenge.
That's the other thing, is it's like, it'd be one thing if it was just eat like a hot dog eating contest and they came out with like 5 and it was just get it done in like 3 minutes. It's a speed eating contest with just 1. So I feel like sometimes people, at least I'm the type of person that would give a little bit more grace for someone who lost, as long as they gave it a good effort, hot dog or not. But I know other people are like, they didn't get a point, they suck. So very, very straight to the point.
Up next is chicken pate, which Jason as dog food and cat food. 5. You give that
No,
5.
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's it.
I would also give that a 5. And you know what's crazy about this is anybody who's ever owned a dog or a cat in their life knows this. It's the smell overall that can get you. I mean, yes, you can plug your nose, but those senses are still going to find their way through your nostrils.
And I'm just imagining like hours later, you're like nodding off to sleep, and all of a sudden you feel like a little bit of like a kernel of dog food like coming to your tongue, and you just go ah! Kind of like like when you eat like really spicy foods, and you feel like a little sliver of spicy chicken, it hurts all over again. That's what I think would happen with the dog food. So yeah, I'm agreeing on this one.
It's like when you eat popcorn at the movies, you come
Yeah.
back and you find hours later a kernel stuck in there. It's like you end
Mhm.
up finding there's still a small piece behind that tooth there of this.
The
This would be
next
bad.
one is um the most American dish of all of them, half a stick of butter.
Also
Uh,
5.
You know what's bad is I've actually seen this. It wasn't half a stick. It was about like a third of like a regular stick, right? In a game that I played before, and I did not have to do this. I have no idea how who was a mad scientist enough to come up with this idea. But you know what they did? They dipped it in cinnamon on top of it. So you had a stick of butter with cinnamon. I'm like, you're gonna kill somebody. So props to Angelica for not going that far. But this is Jabbar, this is absolutely wild. I would not have called this one.
Yeah, I literally almost freaked out when I saw a stick of butter pop up. I was like, oh no, this is getting crazy.
Now, Nathan, in your stick of butter rankings that you did with your friends a few years ago,
yes.
what did you find was the best butter product?
Oh, I can't believe it's not butter. Clearly, I mean, come on. What I thought about with this is imagine like because for real foot, for example, we
Sure.
people before with dietary restrictions, some older people whose like significant others or kids are like wondering like, oh, are they getting enough food? They're
Yeah.
diabetic, all these things. Imagine you are concerned about your like 60-year-old grandpa and like his health, and you just see him gnawing on a stick of butter after not eating for a few hours.
And honestly, the most creepiest part was watching Jameson and Jared like devour the butter, like just ferociously like bite it as they stare at each other, like pouring hits, just like Jason and Matt drinking the damn drink. It made it even scarier, to be
I
honest.
love the idea of potentially them trying to make get into the mind of the other one and mentally like be like, yeah, I'm winning this. I'm not taking away eye contact from you. I'm winning this, bud. You can stop now. And they just neither stop. They just go for it. That's too funny. But no, this is a 4. Like the only reason it's not a 5 is I don't think it would be outright disgusting, but just the sheer velocity of this would make it a 4 for me.
Okay, Parker, you're gonna make fun of me here. I've not done a stick of butter tournament before,
Yes.
but I have tried eating a whole package of ketchup on its own before,
That's
and I
fine.
think the butter similarly would just become overwhelming almost instantaneously.
Oh, I mean, definitely would. I've never tried it, but
Come
I
on,
wouldn't.
man.
I know, right? Come on, I'm not in the clique. No, I wouldn't blame you for the ketchup packet. We were all in high school once. We all got dared. Like, come on, I don't blame you for that.
Okay, next is Jabbar's favorite, hard-boiled eggs.
And this was a surprise, correct, Jabbar? The plate was covered.
Yeah.
Jabbar, I want to play a mind game with you. I know the season's been done for months now. Just in your wildest fantasy, what did you expect under that plate? Were you thinking the absolute worst of the worst, or were you thinking maybe it won't be that bad?
Oh, I was thinking the worst of the worst. We just had pate and then butter, like literally back to back. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be worse than butter. And it was an egg, and I was like, okay, well, this is gonna be just as bad if I can't win.
Jabbar, are you a hard-boiled egg guy? Did you grow up eating those, or?
I love them. They're my favorite kind of egg, to be honest.
Okay.
Of course, not when you have like salty lake water on your side. But I enjoy eggs.
So it wasn't like any type of, oh, I just don't like this. It was just the speed of it.
Yeah, it was just the speed of it. And honestly, Kai was really fast when she was eating the eggs.
See, Nathan, I think that'd be my issue with it. It's like, I think for the most part, I can do these things. It's just, I can't do it quickly. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, then you're already done if it's a speed eating competition. But what did you think about hard-boiled eggs, Nathan? Where would you rank those?
Whenever I think of like gross food challenges, I think of Survivor Palau. You have Bobby John and Tom Westman up against each other, and you have two approaches with gross food, and they were represented there. You have Bobby John's where it's like try and fit all of it in your mouth at once, and then you have like the small bite-sized portions there. What was your approach here, Jabbar?
The bigger bites, but the yolk on the inside was so dry. I was like, oh, this is not what I thought.
I don't like hard-boiled eggs, so I would have had a hard time with this one.
Really? I grew up with those. I love hard-boiled eggs. I give this a 1. This is great.
Me too. Honestly.
Would you rather have this or the hot dog, Parker?
Oh, this. You know, I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a hot dog.
Interesting.
Maybe I went to a baseball game. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, maybe there. But that was a while ago.
Okay, and last is sardines. Spoiler alert, I feel like we kind of blew our wad early on. Like, I feel like the grossest stuff was like 3 through 5.
Yeah.
Sardines is not as bad as the stick of butter or the unholy drink that they had them do earlier.
Or the pate.
No, yeah. Do we all agree the dog food is probably the worst of these?
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And then, the sardine, I mean, like, listen, it's not too bad. I know some people who, like, not like every day, but like they'll have this in their lunch sometimes. It's like, depending on who you ask, this is really not too bad. But again, some people who are really picky, who sounds like at least some of this cast was, can't blame them there. But this is hard for them because that's just not what they normally consume.
Yeah.
So,
but I would give it a 3. Sardines aren't the worst thing. They're not great, but they're not the worst thing. I'll give it a 3.
Parker, you have to either eat anchovies or sardines. Which are you going with?
Well, so back in the day, my buddies and I had a running joke where we would order every type of pizza topping on the menu, and at one point we did get to the anchovies just for fun. And
Are you Ninja Turtles?
Donatello. So we had anchovies one time, and it was not good, but I've never tried sardine pizza, so maybe I'll go anchovies on this one. I don't know what the difference is. I'm not enough of a fish guy. Is there a difference?
I don't know. I haven't had either.
Is anchovy a fish?
It's like the really thin one. It's been on pizza. Yeah, it's like I don't know what they're good for because they're so thin, but like they're a fish.
Okay, I swear we'll get off this tangent after this, but Parker, was that the worst thing you've had on a pizza, you think?
Yeah, probably. I mean, from because like I like pineapple on pizza, so I'm not gonna say that. It was everything that was available on the menu, and there wasn't like anything crazy. It was just like the standard stuff. So yeah, that was probably the worst for me. Anchovies, because none in our party liked like half of us liked the mushrooms, half of us didn't, but none of us liked the anchovies. So I'd say overall that was the worst.
So on that note, Baka wins immunity.
Baka. And at this point, Jabbar, I have to assume morale is unfortunately pretty low.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just keeps coming back. And one thing that we've talked a little bit about on this podcast, because, this is weirdly enough, not the first time that it literally happened last season where a tribe can just not win no matter what the challenge is, no matter if they're close or it's a blowout. They just can't seem to get a win. I feel like, Nathan, at a certain point, you almost have to stop thinking about, okay, we need to keep people who we think will help us win challenges. We need to play to the swap because we're already going to be outnumbered anyway. Do you think this is around the time that mindset should start happening?
Well, what I find odd in all of these cases, because the last 3 seasons we've watched, we've seen these really lopsided tribes. And in none of them did I look at the starting tribes and just think, oh, you guys are host. Like, there's no way you guys can win anything. So here, I guess it's just a momentum thing. So I do think there might be some merit to just be like, okay, we don't have momentum. Just stick
Yeah.
with who we like, kind of thing. What
Do
was
you
your
think
mindset at this point, Jabbar?
So after Alejandro got back from which I'm assuming you all are going to discuss. After Alejandro comes back from the fortune teller, I realized that myself, Alejandro, and McKenna all have advantages and not disadvantages. And we all assumed that there will be a swap anyway. So in my mind, I was like, okay, let's keep the people who have advantages so that even if we are in the minority, we have a chance at a swap. And this is actually why I think, even though we lost a lot, like losing a lot early on wasn't the worst thing in the world, because we got to go to the fortune teller before like a lot of chips got put into our little boxes to like bump up our curses or anything like that, and we still had good chances of getting advantages.
that's actually a really good idea? I think that's kind of inventive because, and you described it as, if we end up either all together in a swap, or one of us go here, two of us go here with advantages, at least we have a chance to save our group of people there because we outnumbered anyway. And I'm not saying, and I would almost be tempted to just straight up work with them in an alliance. Now, is that really a group you can trust? Who knows? But I mean, we're the ones who had to go to the fortune tellers right away. We have advantages. Look out for each other. So that's a really smart strategy, I think.
I'm honestly a little bit. I'm thankful this didn't happen for a lot of reasons, but I'm a little bit surprised it wasn't a thing where you go to that booth and you're dead, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could easily see a
Yeah.
tribe just going like, okay, well, that's an easy vote, especially the first vote when you don't have any basis for it. So I appreciate that that's not just the vote we're getting each round. And you all seem very receptive to McKenna when coming back there.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
agree. It's weird that, again, happy about, but it's weird because we've had this has happened on Realfoot when Nathan and I were on production, where we had a twist, and the first person who went, the guy, he was telling not the full truth, but most of the truth, and the other tribe just did not believe a word he said. They wanted him gone. They ended up keeping him around because he was good at challenges, but they just that alone made them not trust him for like basically the whole game. So I'm glad that this isn't really the case with this. Maybe this is a case of, again, that's much faster than Realfoot. They don't have as much time to really worry about the details of everyone's saying, but it is. I appreciate this cast in doing that. Yes, as you mentioned, Jabbar, Alejandro is going to get to go this time, and like we talked about a little bit earlier, I feel like Alejandro, Nathan, is in a little bit of a precarious spot. I don't get the sense he's like anybody's number one target, but I constantly feel like he's the one either not the last person told for the plan, or he's just not told the plan at all. So a person like this getting an advantage, what kind does that throw a wild card into the mix?
Is
Oh.
we had remove a vote, add a vote, and now so we had block a vote, add a vote, and now
And now,
negate a vote. What is this even? I'm so confused.
It's the
so,
add subtraction. It's the math. It's the
yeah.
math strategy.
So, I mean, the biggest difference between Alejandro's and McKenna's is that Alejandro has to play his on a specific person, And if they have a vote against them, then it's nullified. McKenna can stop someone from voting.
Gotcha. So correct me if I'm
It's
wrong,
almost
Jabbar.
like the difference between the way it's played. It's like the difference between an immunity idol and a immunity idol nullifier.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
correct me
I
if I'm
guess that
wrong,
makes sense.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Jabbar. It's like, let's say I have this advantage Alejandro has, and I'm going to play it on you. But if you don't have any votes cast against you, it's basically worthless. Am I on the money there? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Honestly, Nathan, that's kind of inventive.
So,
I mean, I don't think I've seen that before.
So do we know, is this revealed before or after they vote? Because I feel like it's more useful if it's revealed beforehand, potentially. Because
What do you mean?
in some circumstances, at least, because let's say you're at the bottom, or not at the bottom, but you feel like votes are coming your way, and you just say, I'm going to nullify a vote against me right here. Then people may decide to flip to someone else just to ensure they have the majority.
It's revealed after, like around the same time that you would ask for like a hidden immunity idol. It's in that same span.
Okay, that's interesting. It's definitely inventive. I don't think I've seen this kind of advantage before. I'm sure it's been done maybe somewhere else that I'm not thinking of, but I can't recall this. So that's interesting. We have at least 3 advantages in one tribe going into a swap. That if potentially. So that's very interesting here. There isn't too
Angelica
much.
Gods, you took away Kayla. Can you at least give us as a blessing, let all of these 3 advantages be played at the same tribal council?
Somebody loses a vote, somebody gains a vote, somebody adds a vote. It'd be great.
It would be like too many cooks, just people walking up after each other with advantage after advantage.
This would be like that one confessional from this season of Survivor 45 where Austin goes, well, I don't have a vote, but I'm going to use this advantage to make it to where I can vote. And now I'm not going to vote so I can increase my idol. That would be like that all happening. I just want them all to go up there to the voting booth and tell the poor soul behind the camera. So this is what I'm doing with this. That would be, I want these all to come out at one tribal. So Jason then has to read, all right, we had an advantage and we had another advantage. And then there's another advantage. Because I think that's how Jason normally does. He's like, all right, before we read these votes, there was an advantage. I love it.
I kind of think it's fitting that these advantages are given in the form of cards.
Yeah.
Because I do kind of get a board game vibe from these advantages in a lot of ways. Maybe not specifically the immunity aisle, but the rest of these, it kind of reminds me of playing board games with friends and that kind of thing of like, you wanted to do this to me, but I have this special card to block that card. It's kind of interesting.
That actually brings up an interesting thought that I haven't thought about. Jabbar, obviously you know that you have an idol from your trip to the store. The others don't know that. Did you... Knowing that you got an idol specifically from the fortune teller, did you think there were still just regular idols hidden throughout the camp, or did you think maybe there were no idols or advantages hidden in the camp itself and it all came from the fortune teller's booth?
So because I had like a legitimate idol, I thought that like all idols or like advantages would come from there. I didn't think that anything else would be hidden around.
Right. And that's such an advantage to have that information, whether wrong or right, because the others don't know that you got the legit idol from the fortune teller booth. So these people, Nathan, are probably walking around thinking that, oh, there's going to be an idol in our camp. Why wouldn't there be? That's classic Survivor. But just having that one piece of information, I feel like would at least make somewhat of a difference.
Yeah, it's kind of like it adds validity to, even if you are searching, like, okay, at least I know there are idols in the game this season type of thing.
Right. So I want to ask from your perspective, Jabbar, because we do get a bit of strategy here. And obviously, you all had your reasons for voting out Ashley. I was kind of surprised it flipped on her just from the previous votes, because obviously Veronica got votes before. Jason in the very first vote got some votes. So what was the strategy and how did it ultimately end up all coming on Ashley?
So from my perspective, Ashley had pulled myself and Jason to like the stairs of the cabin and pretty much told us that she was invited to an alliance with Alejandro, McKenna, and Veronica. Um, and that they were targeting either Jason or Jameson, but they hadn't landed on a target. Um, and I say, okay, well then we need Jameson. I go talk to Jameson and I'm explaining what Ashley is saying, and he stops me midway through the explanation. And it's like, "Do you believe? Um, do you believe anything that she's saying?" And I'm like, "You don't?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh, well then there's nothing else to talk about really," because Jason had also said that he was gonna go approach Alejandro because we all had a really good. We all felt really good about like having bonds with Alejandro. Um, so I knew that at that point, Jason was gonna leak what Ashley had told us to Alejandro, and if Jameson's not believing it, this is all gonna spin on Ashley. And even though to be honest, I believed Ashley, I was not gonna put myself in a position of like sticking my neck out for her, or anything like that. So yeah, I think that the fact that it got back to the other people what she had told us mixed with some of us not believing what she was saying anyway, those two things were a recipe for disaster for her.
That's all
At this point in
really
the day,
helpful
you're
info.
probably exhausted, right? I mean, when you see the way it's shot, it's in the middle of the night. You've gone to 3 tribals in one day. So do you think
Yeah,
that kind of played into it as well? Like, I don't know who's telling the truth. Let's go with majority here. I get some sleep.
absolutely. I think, and that just goes back to what we talked about earlier, where I just think that um, we just happen to trust people who we vibed with more. Even though Ashley, I thought was telling the truth. Um, People vibed more with Alejandro. People vibed more with McKenna and
Yeah.
Veronica, and so on and so forth. So whether she was telling the truth or not didn't really matter. Um, Especially because we thought that we were swapping soon anyway. And we hadn't had a unanimous vote. So if there was a chance to like get everybody on the same page, that would be like ideal.
It's so hard to find because uh Jabbar, from your perspective, you said that you believed Ashley's story for the most part. There just wasn't enough pull or time to get it off of her. Where do you think she was coming from with trying to tell this information? Do you think she was trying to maximize her position, or do you think she legitimately was trying to give y'all a lifeline in the game?
A combination of both. I think that because she was also the other person who voted out Veronica, maybe she felt like her position was a little bit compromised with Veronica staying. Um, and I think that she felt better or would feel better about her position, giving myself, Jameson, and Jason more of a chance. Um, so.
It's really hard here, Nathan, when the person you voted for doesn't go home. They're still in the tribe. Obviously, it didn't seem to affect Jabbar too much, but affected Ashley. Uh, you know, Nathan, we always ask the $1 million question. What could be done different? But I'll ask you a slightly different question. Do you think Ashley made a big mistake there in trying to give that information, even if it had good intentions?
So what exactly are you even honing in on with that
Like,
specifically?
like, like, what should Ashley have kept that info to herself and maybe just wrote out that original alliance that Jabbar says she was approached with, or did she make the right call trying to include Jabbar, and try to get a different group going?
It is so hard. I feel sympathy for everyone, specifically in this group, because I feel like in the past, the tribes that got on losing streaks, I feel like they had a little bit more of a break than you all did here. So I feel like my brain would just be absolutely fried at that point.
Mhm.
I do think there is a lot of merit to just going with the flow if you keep losing like that, and trying to
Yeah.
switch up groups is kind of a big ask, especially since you probably can't even see half of your group. I mean, in the woods at night, it gets dark very fast. Did they give you flashlights, or did production just have flashlights for you?
They gave us flashlights.
That's good because people are going to be tripping over each other. You don't want someone to accidentally get injured, just falling in a hole, or tripping on something. That makes sense. That's good to hear. And like you said, Nathan, it's just so hard because at this point it's late at night. Your brain is fried. You just really want to stay on the majority of the votes. At this point, if as a tribe, your confidence is shot in terms of winning immunities, and you're like, we just gotta hope there's a swap. If there's not, well, crap. But if there is a swap, we need to have the people we can trust more. Like you were getting at, Jabbar, people felt better about Alejandro. They felt better about McKenna. And it just seemed like Ashley, for whatever reason, brought suspicion upon herself. And that's just where the ball was rolling in that direction, which, if you're not worried about, tribe strength, you're going off of just who you trust at that point. So I think Ashley just couldn't cultivate trust for one reason or another.
This is not exactly related to Ashley, but more so just filming at night. Whether you're on production or a player and it's nighttime, you feel like a hostage situation is going. Because either you're the one in someone's face and asking them questions, or someone's doing that to you. And I distinctly remember we had a tribe swap at like 11 p.m. at night, pitch black, and there was big old car headlights on us, like lighting the way as soon as we got on there. And I kept expecting like machine guns to be pulled from the back or something. So everything having to do with nighttime live reality games is surreal as all can be.
Yeah.
And the production team loves filming at night. It's so much fun. And I know the players love filming at night. It gives so much anxiety. And you have to do it, you're on a time crunch, But it's so bizarre to try and do it at night, and especially early hours of the morning, and then get up and do it the same thing the very next morning.
Yeah.
So we do get to the tribal council. Unfortunately, this is going to be the first. I think this is the first for the Loa tribe, first unanimous vote. It's going to be a 6-1 vote. Ashley seemed to go out with some class, had some nice words to say in her final words at the end of the episode, and for all we know, we may see her again. She might get back into the game. Purgatory keeps growing. We didn't talk too much about Purgatory, but it keeps growing. They have their own camera that I enjoy. We get little snippets of them here and there for the episode, so that's fun. But that was about it for episode 4. Nathan, did anything else happen in that episode that you wanted to cover?
Honestly, I am thoroughly enjoying this season. I feel like we have 2 really fun tribes, actually. You have kind of the frantic energy of Loa, like just trying to stay alive, and then you have more of the like grand planning of Baka. I feel like both tribes have really interesting dynamics, and I'm interested to see how the game shakes out.
Yeah.
I agree. This has been a really fun one. I'm really enjoying the back and forth. I think the twist, and none of the advantages have come to play it, but I really enjoy the curses and blessing and the fortune teller room. I'm excited for when those play a part. But even just this cast, you can see why these people were picked. They bring some fun energy. They bring paranoid energy. They bring like, I'm going to play really hard energy. And that's always a fun time to see. And I think it's coming across through the screen. Let's see. Before we wrap up with some predictions, Jabbar, was there anything else about your experience overall, or just the episodes we covered you wanted to bring up?
Well, I'll just say, like, it's very interesting that then the dynamic on Loa now with Ashley gone, because like it seems to be 2 different types of players still around. The people who want to play with like honesty and integrity, being like the McKenna, Veronica, Jason, and then you have like people who are okay being a little bit sneakier, myself and Alejandro. I don't really know where Jameson kind of falls into either one of those categories, but it's interesting how like, Alejandro at least from the edit, is closer to some of the honesty and integrity people like Veronica and McKenna. Myself and Jason at this point are really tight. So like it's really interesting how like these two different types of gameplays on low are like meshing.
At that point, like while you were playing, who did you think was the best player on your team?
I would probably say Veronica.
Yeah.
She escaped 2 early rounds without getting voted the heck out. And to like completely turn like a 5-3 vote into like a unanimous vote against Ashley. I was like, oh, so I need to be your friend.
I always think it's fun when you see these tribes that start with 9 or 10 people, and then they unfortunately go on a losing streak, and then you see like the last 5 or 6 people left on the tribe, and you always have to wonder. This is not every time I've seen that on the show or I've been in that situation. I'm like, this is not the group of people I thought would be left when this tribe first started. So I don't know if that was the case for y'all out there, but I always think that's just like a weird one where you think some people might go out earlier and then they don't. Some people might go far and they don't. It's always that's always a fun juxtaposition. Like, for example, Nathan, when we were together on a tribe, I did not think that the group we had left was the group that would be the last ones before we swapped. I couldn't have predicted that.
No.
But
and I do think there is some merit actually to what Jabbar was saying. If you see someone really good at the game on your team, especially if you're on a smaller group, it's better to just work with them rather than against them.
Yeah. There's always time in the merge, to worry about that person. But if you're already losing and this person clearly has some kind of social capital, and is in people's ears, it might just be better to buddy with them rather than try to take a shot at them. Some people, like we saw in Australian Survivor, Simon taking the entire game to get rid of King George and still can't do it. Like that really, I think, shut a lot of doors out for him early on.
Yeah.
Rather than maybe had he just played nice with him, that would have opened up more strategic possibilities for him. That's all I can think of we have for this episode. Nathan, you want to do some predictions? Are we getting a swap next episode? Are we going to get a curse next episode? What lies ahead for episodes 5 and 6 for us?
I know they explained the mechanics to us of the blessings and curses in the first recap we did, but the stacks for the blessings must be noticeably shorter than the curses at this point. And I could be wrong on this. I'm pretty sure they said there were 6 blessings and 6 curses. I don't know when they reset that. What?
I said I think they said that.
Yeah, so at a certain point, I feel like they have to reset this. It would be funny if someone comes in, they're just stuck with 6 curses. Like, oh, dang it.
It's going to keep happening. It's going to be, let's just throw it a random over. There's going to be 2 blessings right now. Someone's going to get a blessing. And then the next episode, it's a 1 out of 7 chance, and they're going to get the last blessing,
I'm interested to see how these blessings and curses play a role. I'm interested to see how when we get someone back from purgatory. I could be wrong on. I feel like last season they did the buyback. It was like right as the swap was happening. Am I right on that, Parker?
Yeah, you're right. You brought up a good point where last season they did the buyback like 1 round before they swapped. And I think there was only about 3 people competing. There's 4 people out of the game right now, so it could happen early. They could wait till the merge to switch it up. I don't know, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. We could have it happen before they even merge the buyback. So that's another one to look out for.
I know it's almost a cliched point of view to have at this point, but like I am totally cool with buybacks in the pre-merge.
Oh yeah.
I think post-merge is when it gets dicey, and to expand upon that, I would almost be fine with 2 buybacks in the pre-merge, especially in a live game like this that's so short. I feel like the first 2 boots didn't really do all that much bad. Mm-hmm. It's not like there are some cases where, especially in older CBS Survivor seasons, where some of the people vote out were so bad at the game that it's kind of a waste even bringing anyone back,
Mhm.
Whereas here, a lot of these people didn't really do anything too egregiously wrong.
So when you say you're in favor of 2 buybacks, do you mean like 2 people coming back at once, or even 2 separate buybacks where one person comes back in, or either way?
It would almost, my pitch would be almost like Edge of Extinction. There's one buyback, both in the pre-merge. There's one buyback right before the swap, one buyback right before the merge. Does that
Oh
make
yeah,
sense?
and we talked about this last time we podcast about Angelica. It's like, if you're a player in the game and you make the swap or make the merge, whatever, and then you see someone who you voted out or didn't stick your neck out for come back in, you're like, oh, that's unfortunate. That's a little annoying. But overall, I think buybacks in live games are fine. People are traveling, they're spending money, they're taking time off work. Like you said, especially in a game like this where it's very fast paced, sometimes people didn't do too much wrong or didn't get to play a whole lot of the game. So give them another chance to either remain in the game longer, or even best case scenario, come back into the game. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like you said, there's if you have them come back at like Final 5 or Final 6, like the Edge of Extinction, there could be issues there. But like just in the pre-merge only, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Any final thoughts, Jabbar? Anything come to mind?
I'll just say
Tease us.
definitely stay tuned. You will not be disappointed in the next portion of the game for sure.
Love it. Well, that's all we have, everybody. Want to appreciate everybody who tuned in live. Thank you, Jabbar, for joining us. This was certainly a fun chat. In terms of coming back, the holidays are right around the corner, so we'll do our best to get out the coverage. But we appreciate everyone's patience for episodes 3 and 4. This has been a really fun season so far, and we'll be back soon.
All right. See you all soon. Watch for croutons inside your fish.
Do it.